My name is Clara, and I grew up in a house where my shadow was never quite dark enough to be seen. It was always overshadowed by the blinding light that was my brother, Alex. From the moment he was born, he was their everything, the golden child, the star, the sun in their universe. I was just the satellite, orbiting a world that didn't know I existed. The favoritism wasn't subtle. It was a constant, relentless truth. I remember my 8th birthday. My one request was a simple watercolor set. Instead, I got a new school backpack. That same year, Alex turned 10. He received a brand new, top-of-the-line mountain bike, which my dad had spent weeks building in the garage. My mom insisted on wrapping it in a bow the size of a small car, and they took a dozen photos of him grinning, holding the handlebars. When I tried to get in a photo, my dad just said, "Clara, stand to the side so we can get a good shot of Alex." But the real cruelty wasn't the neglect. It was the active sabotage. Alex wasn't just my parents' favorite. He was a master manipulator who used their adoration as a weapon against me. I was about 11 when I got my first ever A on a science project, a working model of the solar system. I had worked on it for weeks, staying up late after everyone else was asleep. I was so proud. I left it on the dining room table, excited to show my dad when he came home from work. But when I got back from school the next day, it was in pieces. The planets were smashed, the wires were ripped out, and the cardboard base was folded in half. When my mom gowned me crying over the wreckage, Alex sauntered in, wiping a fake tear from his eye. "I'm so sorry, Mom," he said in a whisper. "I told Clara to be careful with it, but she just threw it on the floor when I touched it." He had a small red mark on his arm that he'd made himself with a pinch. My parents never even looked at my tear-streaked face. "Alex is so sensitive," my mom said, wrapping her arm around him. "Why did you have to be so rough with him, Clara?" My dad simply told me I was grounded for a week for breaking my own project and hurting my brother. This was the pattern of my life. When I was 14, I was saving money to buy a new laptop for school. I had been babysitting, mowing lawns, and doing anything I could for extra cash. One day, the envelope I kept hidden in my room was gone. I knew exactly who took it. I confronted Alex, and he just smirked at me. "Your word against mine." I went to my parents, my heart pounding, pleading with them to believe me. They listened, and for a split second, I thought I had a chance. Then Alex walked into the room, his eyes wide and innocent, and said, "I don't know what she's talking about, but I'll pray for her." My parents instantly turned to me, their faces hardened. "Alex is a good boy," my dad said, shaking his head. "Why do you have to be so rough with him, Clara?" The message was clear. My truth was worthless, and my brother was a saint in their eyes. The trust I had in them, the hope that they might one day see me for who I was, slowly bled out. By the time I turned 18, I had no illusions left. I had a small bag of clothes, a few $100s I'd managed to save, and a quiet rage that had been simmering for a decade. On the day of my high school graduation, I told them I was leaving. My mom just looked at me, a blank expression on her face. "But where will you go?" she asked. I told her I didn't know. "Well, don't do anything stupid," she said. And that was it. No hug, no "I'll miss you," not even a goodbye. They just let me walk out the door, the ghost I had always been, finally gone. My journey was a blur of exhaustion and ramen. For months, I bounced between friends' couches, never overstaying my welcome. I worked 2 jobs, one at a coffee shop in the mornings and another as a cleaner at night. Sleep was a luxury, a brief pause between shifts. My diet consisted of canned soup and instant noodles. It was a miserable existence, but every time I felt like giving up, I would remember the blank look on my parents' faces as I walked out the door. The memory was a spark, a burning coal of rage and determination that kept me going. The first hint of a new life came unexpectedly. I enrolled in a community college with the last of my savings, mostly to get a quiet place to study and use their computers. I took a basic graphic design course to fulfill a credit, and something just clicked. It was the first time in my life I felt like I was good at something. I spent all my free time in the lab, teaching myself new software, watching tutorials, and practicing. My designs were noticed, and one of my professors helped me land a small freelance gig designing a logo for a local bakery. I was paid a little over $100, and for the first time, my hard work was met with tangible proof of my worth. That small success was the ember that lit the fire. I started a small online business designing websites and logos from my tiny studio apartment, working for any client I could find. The nights were long, fueled by cheap coffee and the ghosts of my past. I wasn't just building a business, I was building a life, a foundation of my own brick by brick. Over the next decade, my small operation grew into a full-fledged creative agency. We have a small team of incredible people, and we work with major clients all over the country. I was successful, finally. I had created a life for myself, a life they had no part in. During this time, I saw my parents sporadically. The calls were always the same. They would ask how I was, but the conversation would quickly turn to Alex. "Did you hear about Alex's new business venture? He's going to be a millionaire soon. Alex is so talented. He's going to be so successful." The ventures were always a flop, and he was always back living at home within a year. He bounced from one failed idea to another, always with my parents' money and unwavering belief. He was the golden boy who could do no wrong, and even his failures were just learning experiences. They never once asked me about my business. When I tried to tell them, they would nod politely and change the subject. To them, my success was just a passing phase, a hobby at best. The calls finally stopped when Alex needed something. A few weeks ago, I got a call from my mom. Her voice was sweeter than usual, full of a strange forced affection. She was telling me about how proud she was of my success, how well I had done for myself. I was on my guard. I knew this was a setup. She was trying to butter me up for something, and then she dropped the bomb. "Honey, you know Alex has so much potential, but he just needs a real opportunity. Your business is doing so well. We were thinking you should give your company to him." My blood ran cold. The rage that had been dormant for 20 years erupted inside me. It was a hot, blinding fury that finally broke through the wall of silence I had built around my heart. I couldn't speak. I just listened in disbelief as she continued, as if this was the most reasonable request in the world. "He can run it, and you can still work for him. It would be a huge help for the family. After all, you're just the creative one. He's the natural-born leader. It's the least you can do to help your brother get on his feet." For a moment, I was speechless. I felt the decades of anger, of silent pain, of feeling invisible, all swirling inside me. It felt like I was holding a dam that was about to burst. "You want me to give him my company?" I asked, my voice dangerously calm. "My company? The one I built from nothing? The one I built while you were cheering on his failures?" My mom laughed nervously. "Don't be silly, dear. It's family." "No," I said, and the dam finally broke. The words came out in a torrent, a lifetime of bottled-up pain and rage. "It's not family. It's a gift to him because you enabled him to be a failure. Do you remember when I was a kid and you called me a liar because he wanted to get me in trouble? He smashed my science project and you punished me. He stole my money and you blamed me for being jealous. Do you remember when I left at 18 and you didn't even say goodbye? I ate ramen out of a can for a month. I slept on a floor. I built this life with my own 2 hands, with no help from you. I am not your ATM, and I am not his safety net." I could hear her gasping on the other end of the line, trying to interject. She was shocked. I wasn't the quiet, obedient daughter anymore. I was a woman who had finally found her voice. "You always believed him. He could set the house on fire and you'd blame me. You were never proud of me, only what I could do for him. He's the golden child you always wanted, and you can keep him. I am not your ATM." There was a long silence. Finally, my mom said, her voice thin with disbelief, "How could you say such a thing?" I said, Easy. And then I let the last piece of my heart go. I learned it from you. Then I hung up. I stood there for a full minute, phone in hand. My body was shaking, and tears were streaming down my face. But they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of pure, unadulterated release. I felt a weight lift off my shoulders, a burden I didn't even realize I'd been carrying. I had told them how I felt, and it didn't matter what they said back. The silence was the real victory. I had said my piece, and I had set myself free. I have not heard from them since, and honestly, I don't think I ever will. This is the end of the story, but it's also the beginning of my new life, a life where I am the hero, not the forgotten supporting character.